Hello friends, my name is Lalit Soni and I welcome you all on the YouTube channel of Drishti IAS. So there are only 90 days left to your prelims examination for 2024 and many people must have different kind of queries and maybe some people might be going through some distress and anxieties related to the examination. Can we do it or can we not? Should we do it or should we not? All these things might be crossing your mind. Because since 90 days are left, the important question is that can I do it in 90 days? So simple answer is yes, you can. Okay. But the thing is, when we are talking about UPSC examination, there are certain things you have to follow. Like you have to be preparing in a right direction. Okay. There should be a discipline and dedication attached to it. So considering all these things, if you are dedicated, you are disciplined, you are going into the right direction and your strategy is right, so you can definitely crack this exam in 90 days. So in this video, we'll be talking about some strategies which you can use to go forward with your examination preparation. And in 90 days, you can cover up the syllabus. And as well as most important part here is to revise the syllabus, what you have covered. Okay. So in this particular video, we'll be talking about strategy, or you can say 90 days strategy for UPSC CSE 2024 prelims. Okay. So let's start. As I told you, there are various anxieties and various students, they have mentioned in comments etc. also that they are confused, like would 90 days would be enough or not. Okay. So in this video, we'll be looking at all those things, about all the questions related to these 90 days, and then we'll see what are the challenges. Okay. So we'll talk about the challenges and what things you should avoid at this point of time. Okay. And what you have to do. Okay. What kind of strategy you should employ in the next 90 days so that you can be confident while you are attempting the exam. Okay. Afterwards, we'll be following the strategy of 40 plus 30 plus 15 plus 5. Now this can be different for different people. Okay. This is just from our experience, we are preparing this. So you can little bit change you can make in this strategy, but I would suggest that you follow something similar manner. Okay, so that you can go for at least 3 revisions. Okay. Now we'll be talking about some core areas. We'll be talking about the daily schedule, what are the things that has to be employed in your schedule, and attempting and analyzing test. So basically these test, mock test or practice test which we call, these are quite important factor and significant factor when we are talking about our preparation. So we'll be talking about that, how to attempt these tests and how to analyze this test. Okay. And afterward, what will be our focus in the last 5 days of the preparation, last 5 days before the exam. Okay. So in the end of the video, we'll be talking about that as well. Okay. So let's start. Now, there is a vicious cycle when there are only 90 days left. There are certain people who has, worked throughout the year. They would say that 90 days are quite, enough for revision, etc. But there would be certain class of people or certain section of the students who are not able to give their 100% in the last few months. But the thing is, if they start now, they can also crack it. Okay. So we'll be talking about that. But the thing is, when there is a time limit, which is, you can say as less as 90 days. So you will have these questions. I have not covered this particular book. I have not covered the current affairs. I have not done the enough number of tests. I'm not ready for the mains. Should I go for the prelims or not? Okay. So all these things ultimately put you through a guilt. Okay. After that guilt, you will talk to your friends, you will go to a YouTube video, get motivated and come up with a plan or a schedule. There are high chances that such schedule or such plan can be impractical. Okay. When you are going for such plan which is impractical, ultimately you won't be able to follow that particular plan. Once you won't be able to follow that plan, that guilt will enhance, and then you will be in the vicious cycle of that guilt that we started with the guilt itself. Okay. So ultimately, to avoid all these things, you must have a concrete plan. You must have a proper guided plan where you know that what to do in the last 90 days and you should stick to it. Okay. The key here is that you should follow these 3 D's. That is, first is direction, wherein you will be going in the right direction. Second thing is discipline. You have to be disciplined when you are preparing for it, and you have to be dedicated. You have to be consistent with respect to that particular plan. Okay. So that is the key. You have to follow these 3D rules: discipline, dedication, and the direction. Okay. So now let's see what we have to do in the last, some 90 days. So this is 26th of Feb today. So you must know that there are exactly 90 days left. Okay. So we'll say that you start from the March, April and May. There are certain, things which you have to focus on. Those things are basically reading and revision. I would assume that you have little bit of idea of the preparation because you have entered into it, you have thought about it, you must be aware with the syllabus. Okay, now reading all those important things which can give you a high yield result. So basically there are certain topics which has been asked again and again, so you must have gone through the PYQs. Those topics becomes important. Okay, so you have to focus on the high yield areas. Okay, so in the first reading we will go for the broader section, and then in the further readings you have to focus on the high yield areas. Okay, afterwards in these 90 days you have to focus on the current affairs as well. Every day you have to go through certain current affairs, and then you have to try to revise them again and again. So first key is you have to read and revise. Okay, second thing is practice tests. Now tests are, you can say, foundation of your preliminary examination preparation, because test will give you an idea like at what ground you are actually situated. Other than that also, the aim of test is not to go for the marks, not to see how much you can correct, how much questions you can attempt correctly, but the thing is how much you can get out of it, how much knowledge you can extract from that. Okay, so that's why tests become very much important. So we will go for the test and some PYQs. Okay, so right now our focus should be high yield areas, and then some current affairs, then practice tests and PYQs. These are the 4 areas we will be covering. Okay, and how we will do that, that is the what section, what to do, and now how we will do it. We will do it in a 3-phase plan. Okay, so there will be a 40 days window, then there will be a plan, phase of 30 days, and then there will be a phase of 15 days. Last 5 days I will be keeping separately for something else. Okay, those 5 days will be kind of very important for your exam. So we will see what to do in last 5 days, but right now we will be dividing our preparation in, you can say, 3 phases. First phase would be of 40 days. In this we will be going for the reading. How we have to read these things we will be discussing in the next slides, but first you have to go for the basic reading, basic static readings. There are certain books or certain sources which you must have referred or you will be referring to during your preparation. So first you have to go through the reading of that particular thing. Now you will say how we will divide in 40 days whole syllabus. Now that we will discuss in the next slide, but right now first reading would be of 40 days. We'll go through that. Afterwards second phase would be of revision. Whatever thing you have read or studied in last 40 days, you have to revise them in next 30 days along with your current affairs. Okay, now current affairs becomes very much important. Okay, other than that, in this particular phase 1 and phase 2, we'll be going for the various number of tests. We'll when we are talking about this first phase of 40 days, we'll go for the sectional test. Okay, and then we'll go for the full length test in the next round. Okay, now the phase 3, that is the last 20 days when we have, so we have to go for a 15 days of revision. That would be your first cycle, that would be your second cycle, and that would be your third cycle of revision. Now in the third cycle, now since you have studied the same thing for the 2 times, now it will take nearly half amount of time for you to study, so that would be of 15 days. So that way you can ensure that you have gone through 3 cycles. Okay, so that would be our plan, that is 40 plus 30 plus 15. Right now we have covered 40, 30 and 50. Next plan would be of our last 5 days. We'll discuss later. Now in the 40 days of reading, the first 40 days, what we have to do, as I told you, there are certain high yielding areas, there are certain core areas which you must have command of. Okay, when we are talking about the syllabus, there are 4 major portions that is related to your polity, second is economy, third is history, and fourth is geography. If you have a good command on static of these 4 areas, then it will be a piece of cake for questions related to this particular area. Now the focus is to go for a reading of these things in the 40 days. Okay, now polity, I would say that you can take nearly 10 days for polity. Okay, and then when we are talking about economy can be covered in 7 days, geography can be covered in 7 days, because these are very less portions. Okay, because most of the portion of economy will be coming from the current affairs, and we are giving our time to current affairs as well. Okay, so for the basic or for the static part, you can refer your sources and limited yourself to the core of the economy. Okay, afterwards you will go through the history can take 10 to 12 days again, okay, on the basis of the revision you have done, on the basis of the sources you have used before. But I would suggest that you finish this portion, and there are certain areas in the history which are quite important. Let's say when you are talking about ancient, there is Buddhism, there is Jainism, okay, and then there is this sites from Indus Valley civilization or Gupta age sites. So there are certain areas which has been asked by UPSC again and again. An idea of that particular subjects or that particular sections of the syllabus you will get through the PYQ, okay. So PYQ will also be part of our preparation at this particular point of time. Then geography, that you have to do from your NCERTs, that is best source, and you can take nearly 7 days for that. So basically, if we are looking at this particular day, on average you will take 10 days, 1 or 2 plus minus. So ultimately in 40 days you will be discussing this, okay. So that core you will be covering in the 40 days, along with, as I told you, in the your day would be divided in certain parts. Like first there would be a static portion, then you have to go through the current affairs as well, okay. So when we are talking about this 40 or the core part, that will take 40 days, along with we will be talking about the current affairs as well, okay. So there are some small areas of the current affairs which will be quite handy for you when we are talking about, let's say, a budget is also part of current affairs, okay. So budget will be quite important for you. So you have to go for some kind of summary, budget summary, or you can watch our videos as well, okay. Afterward, second is economic survey. So this year we don't have an economic survey, and budget is also interim, so that is an advantage for you. But I would suggest that you go through the last year's economic survey video and get the core concept like Saptarishis, etc., which are mentioned in the economic survey, okay. So that would be quite handy for you. Other than that, there is this Indian economy review. That report has been published by the finance ministry before presenting the budget. So you can go through this report, okay. We have made a video on that as well, so you can go through that. Now these three parts would be quite important for you, that is budget, economic survey and economic review. That would be forming a core for your current affairs of economy, okay. Other than that, obviously we have to go through the whatever source you are following, be it Drishti's magazine or any other source, okay, newspaper, etc. So you can revise your current affairs from there, okay. Other than that, we have science and technology, which is also mostly based on your current affairs. So I would suggest that when we are preparing about the science and tech, you go through the current affairs only, and then some international organizations, international summits, international relations, these things are also given in the compilations, etc. So you can follow that. Then ecology and environment, okay. Most of the time we have seen that there are very less chances that they will get into the static portion of that. They will be asking you the current, okay. So while you will be preparing for the current, so that becomes important for you, okay. So these are the peripheral areas, but which will fetch you certain marks, okay. Now places in news. When we are talking about geography, most of the things would be these places in news where let's say some summit has happened, or when we are talking about the recent times, we have seen that there is a chaos in the Red Sea area, the Middle East region is quite in the news, okay. So all these areas would be important for you, and I would want you to focus on that. So let's say places in news, you can give half an hour daily and you can explore these areas, okay. When we are talking about this international organization, that will take hardly 2 or 3 hours if you have a list of your PYQs, and there are certain international organizations which has been asked again and again. So you can go through and make a note like 2-3 liners of each organization. That would be sufficient for your exam point of view. Now coming to ecology part and the science and tech part. So as I told you, most of the preparation would be current based, okay. But there are certain areas in the ecology which you must know, like what is carbon market mechanism, or what is what is a biosphere reserve, what is the difference between national park and biosphere reserve. All these certain areas would be important from your static point of view. So you have to focus on those areas based on your PYQs, okay. Now when we are talking about the places in news, there are certain things like some wildlife sanctuaries, national parks, etc. They are also part of your environment, but they are in news, okay. So that way that will be covered. So basically you have to make sure that your preparation core is covered from here, and your current affairs is taking care of all these things like economy, science and tech, and ecology, okay, and IR portion. Other than that, you have to give 1 or 2 days dedicatedly to the CSAT, okay, which you can give like every day you can give 1 hour, okay. So that would be the 40 days. First 40 days of reading would be like that. And when, as I told you, how would you cover polity in 10 days? okay, or as a matter of fact any subject. There are certain core areas. Let's say polity, if we are talking about, so there is this fundamental rights, there is this parliament, and there are constitutional and non-constitutional bodies. These are fixed questions, okay, they will ask you from this. So when we are talking about the high yield areas, these are the high yield areas which you will, you know, devise on the basis of your PYQ analysis. Now if you don't have time, you can go and directly search on YouTube. There are various videos, okay, directly you can see that which part of PYQ or which particular part of polity is asked, you know, for many times. So on the basis of that, you can you know, identify these high yield areas or the core areas from which you can prepare for your polity part or history, geography, and you know, other parts. So basically you have to focus on all those areas which are being asked again and again, so that there are certain you know, low lying fruits, you can say, low hanging fruits, so which you cannot miss, okay. So that would be the first 40 days of your reading. After that, the same things would be revised in the next 30 days, okay. If you have missed bits or pieces here and there, which you can cover in the next 30 days, okay. So ultimately you will be revising whatever you have read once, that you will be revising in the next 30 days. Now key here is not to learn new things. The thing is, whatever you have learned earlier, you have to be you need to be able to recognize that when it is reproduced in the exam, okay. So that is the strategy for 40 days and next 30 days. Now coming to the daily schedule, okay. So as I told you, we'll be going for the 40 days, then 30 days and 20 days. So when we are going for the first time, it will take more time, obviously, because we have been detached for many reasons, okay. Afterwards, when you will be revising the same thing, it will take nearly 30 days for you. It will, or you can say even lesser than that, okay. And then the third time when you will be revising, that will even take lesser time than 20 days. So that is how you can complete your 3 you know, cycles of revision, okay. Now in the daily schedule, what you will include, first thing is static revision. As I told you, we are going for the 40, 30, 15 days strategy. So you have to give major chunk of your day to this static revision, okay. Let's say if you are going for the polity and you have identified the core areas, okay, so you have to make sure that as much as possible to cover in a day, okay. So there are certain tables which are given in the, you know, your books, etc. So you can go through that tables, okay. You can go through the short notes or the compilation, like for constitutional bodies and non-constitutional bodies, you can find a compilation somewhere, okay, and directly you can read from that. You don't have to go through the each and every chapter which is given in your standard books, okay. After a while, you have to go for the current affairs. Now current affairs, you are following some kind of compilation, let's say Drishti magazine, etc. So you have to go through those current affairs in a very, you know, scanning manner. You have to focus on the core areas, okay, and you have to give nearly 2 to 3 hours daily, okay. So if you are giving 4 hours here, nearly 2 hours here, so nearly 6 hours you are dedicating to the static part and the current affairs. Now coming to the daily PYQ practice. Now PYQ practice is important because that is why you get to know that what kind of question has been asked in the last few years, okay. I would suggest start from the latest year, like 2023 you start, 22, 21, go like that. When you are going through this particular revision cycles of 40 days, so you have to, let's say you study the polity today, so go through the polities PYQs in that particular same day. Let's say you have read parliament today, go to your book, or you can directly go on internet and search the PYQs related to polity, or you can say parliament at that particular day, okay. It will hardly take some 1 hour to go through nearly 50 PYQs. So 1 hour would be that, okay. And then when we are talking about tests, okay, I would suggest that take as many as tests possible, but since time is less, I can understand that constraint. But here what you can do is, after starting your preparation from, let's say from today onwards, on the 4th day, if you are starting from today, start on the 4th day you can start giving tests, okay. Now that test should be based on the revision of last 4 days. Let's say you started with polity and you have taken up all the chapters till parliament, okay. So take sectional tests which are up to the topic of parliament, and you can go through those tests, okay. Now how test is to be analyzed, we will be talking about in the next slide. So that should be a day or ideal day for you, nearly 4, 6, 7 or 8 to 9 hours, okay. I would say that since we have less time, 8 to 10 hours of study I would, you know, recommend you, okay. Now coming further, analyzing the test. Now the test, as I told you, very important part of your preparation, and you have to attempt as many as tests possible. Okay, but focus should not be on the marks. Focus should be on the concepts to, or you can say focus should be on the learnings. Okay, so how to attempt a test? You know that there should be iterations. Sorry, there should be some iterations you have to attempt, like in the first iteration you have to attempt all those questions which you are very confident about. Okay, afterwards there will be certain questions which you have doubt. So when we are talking about a test paper, there will be some questions which you will be confident. Then there will be some questions where you will be having a doubt that either you can be able to eliminate nearly 2 options out of 4, and there will be a doubt between the remaining 2 options. So such questions you can keep for doubt, and there will be such questions you will have no clue at all. Such questions should not be touched. They should not be attempted. Okay, so now once you can do once you are done with the questions which you are confident with, after that you have to follow your elimination method and come up with a answer in such questions. Okay, I would suggest that if you have eliminated 2 options, okay, wisely, in that case you can attempt such questions as well. Okay, such questions should not be touched at any cost. Now start from the 4th day. As I told you, if you are starting from today, that is 26th, I would suggest that you give your first test on 1st of March. 26, 27, 28 and 29, you can give a test on the 1st of March. Okay, now there should be some sectional tests which is to be given in the first 40 days. As I told you, our strategy is divided in 40 plus 30 plus 15. So in that particular one phase, since you are going for the first reading, I would suggest that you go for the sectional test, okay, of each core subject. Afterwards you can go for the full length test in these 2 phases. Okay, and since, as I told you, in this 40 days you will be able to give nearly 10 tests. Okay, 10 to 12 tests you can give, and with time your frequency should be increasing. Like you can give a test in a 3 days. In the last time of your prelims, like last 2 weeks, you can go for a test every day as well. Okay, so I would suggest as many as tests you can give, that would be beneficial. Now analyzing a test. Now the object of the test is to make sure you are acquainted with the pattern of the question paper. Now it won't be a surprise when you are going for the actual exam. Okay, there won't be any kind of paper related anxiety. Okay, so that is one thing that gives you an idea to how to give a paper in a exam setup. So that is one thing. Second thing is you have to go for the question analysis. Now how you do that question analysis? Once you have attempted the questions which you are very confident about, you have to see that how many of the questions has been correct out of that. Okay, so that would be your accuracy. Second thing is go for the reading the answers, or you can say explanation of the questions which are wrong, and make sure that this is your weak points, because being confident you have made it wrong. Okay, so that is your weak point, you have to revise it again. Second thing is, whenever you have doubt, okay, the second type of questions, when you had doubt, now this you have to revise, because there are certain things either you don't know the concept, and there are doubt is when you know the concept but there is some kind of lack of revision. Okay, in such questions you have to revise, and you have to see the explanation of that questions as well. Okay, so first, when you have you were confident but you could not make it correct, that is problem of concept, you have to revise it again. Okay, then you have to go for the options as well. If there is a question, there are 4 options, 1 is right, 3 are wrong. I would suggest that you can go through these 3 options as well. Okay, let's say they ask you about some bodhisattva. Okay, they have mentioned 4 names. One of them is the right answer. The other 3 names are not the bodhisattva they were talking about. I would suggest that go through the all 4 bodhisattvas, because there are high chances they would ask you that particular questions, that particular bodhisattva again in the next or future examination. Okay, so that is how you make sure you are noting down the options as well. Now areas of mistake, as I told you, there can be 2 types of mistake. One is factual, one is conceptual. So if that is conceptual, you have to focus on the concept. It is factual, then you have to focus on the revision. Okay, so that is how you analyze a test. And I would recommend that if you are just giving the test, marking answers won't help you until unless you are going for the analyzing part. If you are taking 2 hours for a test, I would suggest that if you are not using any kind of OMR, you should finish your test by 90 minutes. Okay, now these 90 minutes of test would require nearly 3 hours of analysis, or 2.5 to 3 hours of analysis, because each and every question will give you some kind of insight. Okay, that would be helpful in your prelims. Now moving further, how can we help you in this particular preparation? Okay, so there is this prelims practice series. There are 6 books, which there are certain PYQs which has been compiled in that. So you can go through these things. When I told you that you have to go through as much questions as possible, as much as PYQs as possible, so you can use these booklets. Other than that, we have our own prelims test series, so you can join that and get advantage of that. Now other than that, we have this YouTube channel, wherein we'll be coming up with the latest videos of the current affairs, etc. So you can follow that. Other than that, also the videos like strategy, etc. will be coming up with that, and we'll be coming up with the current affairs revision for prelims 2024. So keep a track on that. We will be discussing current affairs in a very crisp form for your prelims 2024 revision. Okay, other than that, there are certain social media wherein you can get infographics, etc. So you can follow us on that. Now last 5 days, keeping everything in mind, we have followed 40 days, 30 days, 15 days strategy. Now we have covered everything. We have actually gone through a particular subject 3 times. Now in the last 5 days, I would want you to relax, keep calm, keep your self-esteem high, be confident, because you have gone through the subject matter. Okay, every person, every aspirant, every student who is writing the exam will have this kind of doubt that he has left some portion, but I would suggest don't fall for it. Okay, don't go for any kind of new readings, etc. Just relax in last 5 days. Okay, if you want to do something, if you have this zeal of going through the books, I would suggest that go for the smaller things, like let's say you have watched your maps while you are preparing for this 1 2 month 3 months. I would suggest that you compile small maps, you make notes of small things which can be important, which you might have a tendency to forget. Make some tables like fundamental rights, DPSP, fundamental duties, because we know that they will ask a question out of it, and they will ask you certain, let's say they will ask about the fundamental duty related to the environment, and they will directly ask you which article is there. Okay, so simply you can make a list of all these things which you can revise in the last 5 days. Okay, just lying down, you can go through these lists. Okay, so smaller areas which are having high yield, like maps, like lists or tables which are given in your standard books, you can revise those, you can focus on those. And if you want to do more, you can go through the last 1 or 2 years of PYQs. Okay, and here I would suggest that you make sure that you have made a note of last 2 or 3 years of PYQs, even their options. Okay, and revise those things in your last 2 or 3 days. Okay, with that, I think that would be very much comprehensive approach, and I would suggest that you focus on CSAT as well. Okay, there are many students which are good at GS, but they are not able to cover CSAT. Come up with a CSAT strategy for yourself. Okay, and focus on that. So with that, I would suggest that you, in the last 5 days, you can be confident, be calm, and rest, give a rest to yourself, so that you can perform better in the exam. Okay, so that strategy can be different for different people. You can make some changes here and there according to your own convenience. So that is the overall picture of this strategies. Okay, so with that, I would like to take your leave. If there is any kind of questions, you can always approach us in the comment box. I'll see you later. Thank you.
For more informative content, like, share and subscribe, and do not forget to press the bell icon to get the notifications.